Could you tell us a little bit about why you're making this video?
Well, I just have been in real estate 25 years, and I found that buying a house while you already own a house is definitely the most complex situation to be in, and people need a lot of information and guidance to do this properly. And I'm making these videos so that people have some idea of the complexity and know how to plan for it and get the kind of support they need so they can do it right.
And you talked about free reports on your website. Can you tell a little bit about that? Should they go there? Or
Well, the free reports have much more detail than this video. I mean, that's where you can print them or read them and get much more information than this video. And of course, I'm going to do seminars where I'm going to go into even more detail.
So what are the options that people have to sell their house?
Well, option one, they can look for a new home to buy and get the home under contract and go to sell and move into the new home. And afterwards, they can sell their previous home once they already own a home. And that is definitely an option that, you know, some people choose, but that's something everybody can do.
What are the pros and the cons of option one?
Well, first of all, if you're going to do this, you have to have enough cash and income to buy a new house while you own your old house without having sold it. And not everyone can do that. Secondly, there's a risk involved. You don't know how long it's going to take to sell your house. You don't know what you're going to get for it when you do sell your house. So, you know, not everybody's comfortable with this scenario, and you have to have a very good sense of that your house is very saleable, and this is not going to turn out to be something you never want to get into.
What about contingencies? You've talked about them before. Can you share a little bit more what a home sale contingency is?
Well, if you own a home and you're buying a home, you can make the home you're buying contingent on selling your home.
Okay.
However, if you do that, most people don't want to take that contract because it's risky. Now, you can write a contract to buy a house and not have a contingent on the sale of your home.
Okay.
As long as you can qualify and you don't need the cash and you have enough income, you can do that. But the question is, can you do that? Not everyone can do that. And then everybody wants to do that. Some people don't want to buy a house unless they sell their house.
Okay.
So there's risk involved, and there's also negotiating with the seller that you're buying the house from. You know, are they willing to work with you or not? In a good market, they won't do it. And if that's what you have to do, you're going to find it very tough to buy the house you like. The best houses, the people won't do that with you.
Okay.
It's not an option.
What about option two? It's not an option for that, but is there another option?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of options.
Okay.
So you can have your existing home on the market for sale. In other words, option one was you buy a house, you don't sell your house at all, you qualify, you're okay doing that. You buy the house, you settle, you move into your new house, and then you sell the previous home. That's option one. Option two is you have your house on the market for sale while you're looking. Now this is where you are going to be using a home sale contingency. You're going to make your contract contingent on the sale of your house. And you're going to have to find someone that will work with you. Well, that's harder. It's different. It has less risk, but also makes it more difficult to get the house you want. You're competing with people that don't have a house to sell, and the seller doesn't have to deal with that contingency. So it depends on the market. You know, it depends on a lot of things. But it's harder to buy a house, but it's safer. So a lot of people do this because they just feel like that's the only way they're going to comfortably do this.
There's a term called net proceeds. Could you share with us a little bit of what that is?
Net proceeds is the amount of money you're going to have after you sell your house and all of the expenses have been paid. All of the money you need to fix the house up has been spent, all the commissions, all the costs of selling your house, paying off your loans. After all of that, what's left is your net proceeds.
Okay.
Now that's what you have to have some idea what that is, so that when you buy a house, you know how much money you've got. And that is a very important definition to know and understand, because that really is the basis of your future real estate buying.
So this would be the time to get an experienced realtor involved in this process.
Well, it's going to be very hard to figure out this without some professional help. First of all, you have to know how to price your house.
Right.
Then you have to know what the cost of selling it will be. You have to understand what the fix-up costs are going to be. You've got to get a lender involved who's going to pre-approve you, and you have to know what kind of loan you're getting. So, I mean, this information is not that easy to come by. It can be done, but if you don't know that, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how much money you've got to work with. It's critical.
Okay. So walk me through like what happens next after somebody contacts an experienced realtor. what happens to the house.
Well, in
and
option
both
2, where you're going to buy a house and sell a house at the same time, basically you figure out what to sell your house for, what kind of condition to put it in with the money you've got, and you get it on the market and you start trying to sell it. In the meantime, you're also looking for houses and you're trying to figure out something that will work for you. And of course, you've got to get pre-approved for financing on this new purchase, and you've got to use your net proceeds from the sale of your house as a big part of it. You've got to figure out your sales price, and you've got to have the right contingencies in both contracts, the one you're selling and the one you're buying, to protect you. And you've got to have timing. You've got to work this out so that things work out well. You want to go from house to house.
Do people have to make their contract contingent upon the sale of their house?
Well, they don't have to if they can afford not to, and their lender will not require it. It depends on their resources, their income, their cash reserves. It's very case by case. It also depends on what you're buying.
Okay.
If you're going way up in price, very tough. If you're downsizing, it might be very easy.
Okay. What about option 3?
Okay, so option 3 is good to have lots of options. That's renting your existing house and buying a new house.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to rent your house than sell it. And if all you got to do is find the tenant, all you got to do is get the house in reasonable condition to rent. Make sure the rent is reasonable for getting a tenant, and get a tenant and rent your house out, and that's what's going to happen to it. It's much easier to do that. The thing is, you don't get the cash from that house, and furthermore, you're becoming a landlord.
Right.
Now, some people want that, some people do not want to do that.
Right.
So it is an option, and it is a way to handle things, but I'm not sure a lot of people are comfortable doing that. Most people don't want to become landlords and continue, but some people do want to hold on to their house. They feel like that house is going to go up in value. It's a good investment. They want to keep it, and what they want to do is rent. This is an option.
Right.
But once again, your lender has to approve all this, and you've got to have the resources to do it. And you've got to make sure that the rent you get and the current mortgage you have isn't going to exceed what you can qualify for when you get a new loan.
Okay. So that eliminates the home sale contingency.
It does.
Yeah.
You eliminate the home sale contingency, which is a big deal.
Right.
But you may have a home rent contingency.
Right. Okay.
If you need to rent the house to get your loan approved, you'll have to have that contingency. It's a lot easier to get that accepted by your seller, but it's still on the contingency.
What is option 4?
Option 4, sell the existing house, move into temporary housing or family, and then go looking for a house and buy it. Now this is inconvenient because you have to move out of your house, move into temporary housing, probably put your stuff in storage, but you know what you're dealing with. You know how much money you've got, you're out of the house, you don't have to write contingencies in the contract you're buying, and if you want to go through that much trouble, it's a very strong way to purchase your next house. People often do this when they relocate to other parts of the country. But it's an option, it's another option, and some people like this option.
Okay. How about option 5?
Option 5. This is unusual, but I'm just going to mention it.
Okay.
You can rent the house you intend to buy with an option to buy it. So you move into this house, you're a tenant, and then you proceed to sell your house. While you're doing this, you're renting, you're not obligated to buy the house, and then when you get your house sold, you exercise your option and buy the new house. Now the problem is this, most sellers don't want to sell their house to somebody who's going to lease it with an option to buy. But it's possible. It's just another option. So these are all, there's probably other options we haven't gone into, but these are the main ways that people deal with buying a house when they already own a house. And it does take a good look at everything to understand where you stand and what you can get approved for, what you can afford, and what kind of prices you're dealing with on the next house.
Okay. So this ends part 1 of selling your house, and we're going to make another video, part 2 on buying the house.
On the buying side.
On the buying side.
Which is really different.
Awesome.